Welcome back to our Tuesday Pub Day, Reading with Robin here for A Mighty Blaze. We're very excited to have another debut on, and a huge debut at that. This is my galley, so it's Valentine, and my guest is Elizabeth Wetmore, who is a graduate of the Iowa Writers Workshop. Her fiction has appeared in Epic, Kenyon Review, Colorado Review, Baltimore Review, Crab Orchard Review, a lot of reviews, Iowa Review, and other literary journals. She is the recipient of a fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts and 2 fellowships from the Illinois Arts Council, as well as a grant from the Barbara Deming Foundation. She was also a Rona Jaffe Scholar in Fiction at Breadloaf and a fellow at the MacDowell Colony, and one of 6 writers in residence at Hedgebrook. A native of West Texas, she lives and works in Chicago, and Valentine was just picked for Read with Jenna Today Show pick. Oh my God, I wish I had the actual copy, but it's better than not having a copy. Just forget that you're looking at this. Welcome to our show. Welcome to A Mighty Blaze, Elizabeth. So you've been doing something today. You're just hanging out.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, the day is unfolding really differently than I expected. So, yay.
Right? I mean, and we know that Pub Day is different for everybody because of the tours and the events and all of that not happening in person, but they're happening even stronger online, which we're thrilled to be able to do. But yeah, tell us what happened today. Like what was on the surprising or, unexpected twist?
I think, I knew that the Read with Jenna thing was coming. It wasn't, I had a heads up on that. I think, it's been a busy couple of weeks, surprisingly busy for someone who's like marooned at home with my family, and we've been scampering like a lot of people to adjust, our sales and figure out how to do things a little differently, in light of, this terrible pandemic that's putting everyone at home. And so I've been pretty busy, and I think I thought that I would get up this morning and have a cup of coffee, and we'd cuddle up on the couch under a blanket, which we did, my husband and my 15-year-old son and I, and we would watch the Today Show, and then things would be kind of quiet because now the book was out and it was done. And so
your job.
And so anyway, I'm a true rookie here. And so, I was really surprised at, the phone, the email, the social media, which I'm marginal at best, So yeah, it's great. This is an amazing, God, what an amazing problem to have, right? I'm so delighted and so thrilled and happy that this book is going to go out into the world and hopefully do a little good out there, So I really do see it as a book about hope, I love these characters so much, and they're characters, I think, whose lives are a testament to the idea that, no matter how insufficient you may feel to the task, no matter how afraid you might be, there's always, each of us has within us, the ability to step up and act in courageous ways, even when we think we can't, and I love these characters. So I'm so happy that they're going out into the world. So
that is such a thrill. And for me, and I've been interviewing authors for almost 20 years, and never ever does it, when I'm interviewing a debut author, do I not just get a sense of that joy. And I know what goes on, and everything, and everybody's story is different, and what brings you to the point of getting this book, getting the deal, doing the rights, the rewrites, the edits, the copy back, so much that goes into it. And I just absorb some of that, and I'm so excited for authors when I know it's a debut, and certainly sounds like the exact kind of book for our times. Right? It just, everything about that. And people want to be reading, people want to be swept away. And I'm chatting with Elizabeth Wetmore. Valentine is just out in the world. There it is. There's your beauty. The finished copy is way more beautiful.
It is. I've got it right here.
Oh,
Look at
and you
that.
do it. What am I showing my?
Yeah, look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh my God. Yes, I shouldn't have been showing it at all.
I think it's probably one of the most beautiful covers I've ever seen. I mean, I'm so thrilled by it. It's just lovely. So.
And who's the blurb? Who did the blurb on the front? I can't say.
Oh, this is from Ann Patchett.
Oh, okay.
I know.
I knew that she had written about it, but I didn't realize that. I didn't set you up like that. But
yeah.
And what did she say?
She says, fierce and complex, Valentine is a novel of moral urgency and breathtaking prose. This is the very definition of a stunning debut.
Stunning debut. I mean, Elizabeth, that is awesome. Go to elizabethwetmore.com where you can follow her in all the places that she's not really into.
No, I'm into them. I'm just not, I just don't feel that adept at it.
Yeah, that's what I was teasing you. So where Elizabeth is getting way more adept because her publicity team will be doing that. And also Read with Jenna will be posting, tagging, and all that. So what do you, when everything's going at once, the email, the Facebook messages, the Instagram, Twitter, where do you gravitate? Because it's hard to keep up. You're juggling. So where do you go? Where's your favorite place to hang?
Oh, on social media?
Yeah.
You know, I'm old, so I hang out on Facebook, much to my 15-year-old son's embarrassment, but and Instagram. So Facebook and Instagram. So yeah.
Job to embarrass them. Where would he prefer?
And you can always call.
I know, right? This past few weeks on the actual telephone than ever, and that's something that's really unusual for me. There's a sense of needing to connect more than just a text or an email. So set up the story. Tell us about where the idea for Valentine came and the characters we should know about. And clearly the book just came out, so don't worry about spoilers. We're here on a Mighty Blaze on Pub Day Tuesday, and very thrilled to be having Elizabeth Wetmore on the show this afternoon.
Thank you. So the book began as a short story that I just couldn't quite leave alone. I imagined it as one story in a collection of linked stories set in my hometown of Odessa, Texas. It's in the Permian Basin in the middle of the oil patch. And I kept coming back to the story and sort of tinkering with it. You know, honestly, I mean, it's hard to talk about the process actually, because I put down the first words, you know, on paper that would become this book, you know, 16 years ago, actually. You know, and then I set it aside for weeks and months. I raised my son with help, lots of help. I worked, you know, and I also, I just had to step away from it from time to time. These characters were so important to me, and it was so important to me to get it right, you know, and it felt so urgent that I write the book eventually. So although it was a long slog, every now and then when I think about giving up, and I think, you know, a lot of people think about giving up. I'm 52. This is my debut book. People
love hearing that, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm delighted. I mean, I'm so delighted. I mean, I'm like living proof that, you know, like, don't give up. You know, don't give up. And because these things are hard. Earning a living is hard. Raising children is hard work, you know, and I often thought, especially when Hank was little, that the well I tapped for my creative work was the exact same well I tapped for my mothering work, you know? So I set the book aside for long periods of time, weeks, months, even at one point, I think I set it down for a couple of years, and I was still writing during that time. I was working on short stories and other things, but it was a long haul. And so to find myself at the end of it now is very strange. I think I'm kind of having a little trouble letting go of it and believing it's, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, like every now and then I'll wake up in the middle of the night and realize and think there's something I should be doing for the book. And I'm thinking in that moment about writing the book, and I'll realize, nope, it's done. You know, you can't do anything now. So
Right, it's those dreams that we do have, whether you're planning like a wedding or, you know, or like, is everything ready? It's that
right.
anticipatory. I still have the nightmares that I didn't go to any classes and I was sitting in a final. Those are horrible.
Right.
But don't worry, Elizabeth. I have a feeling you're going to be kept very busy. So while you're not still writing Valentine, you will be
Right.
immersed in so many ways, and with the readers getting their hands on this book.
Right.
I'm so fortunate that we're getting to chat now, because I have a feeling it will be tighter and tighter to get any of your time. And it's a Read with Jenna book club pick. You show your copy again, because mine.
Oh. You know what? I've actually got one with the little starburst on it. Should I grab that instead?
Ah, you can start. Oh, you got that one already too.
Yeah.
Show that one.
Hang on.
No, that's fine. I'm not going
Oh, here
anywhere.
it is.
Where am I going?
There it is.
Oh, very nice.
So there it is, right there. So, but you were asking about the origins of the book too, and you know, so I was kind of a weird kid, as you know, practically ever. I feel like every writer should start every explanation with that. I was a weird kid, but I was a kid who listened and eavesdropped a lot, and I spent a lot of time as a child sitting on the back patio with my mom and her girlfriends after dinner, listening to them. This was the 70s, so you know, they were smoking and having their mixed drinks, and I spent a lot of time sort of eavesdropping on their conversations. You know, in the oil boom times, they talked about work and their bosses and their children, and you know, and when there were oil busts, I listened to them talk about finding work, or who was leaving town, or how mortgages were going to be paid, you know. And a lot of times they lowered their voice so I couldn't hear what they were saying when they were stories that were particularly, you know, what they deemed to be, you know, inappropriate for a little girl. And I listened to those stories, and those voices really stuck with me. So when I began this book, I had the voices of all these women and girls I knew growing up, on my little street in my head, and some of the men too. And what I've been telling people as they've asked is that, you know, the stories in the book and the characters are fiction, you know, deeply imagined, richly imagined, hopefully fiction, but the voices and the place are real. You know, I drew heavily on the voices I heard growing up. And so at some point I realized what an incredible honor it was to be able to give these women and girls, you know, a voice in my book, you know. Not that they couldn't speak for themselves, because they most certainly could, you know, but I mean, it felt like such an honorable thing to get to do, you know. So
love that. There's nothing like a great eavesdropper, and we've talked on Reading with Robin many times about that. Was when I started my radio show. I was like, authors are the most entertaining, well-traveled, thoughtful, best eavesdroppers ever. And when you're sitting quietly and the adults don't know you're there, or they just sort of are so engrossed, you do pick up, and so many stories. And I love hearing that, because that's, you know, storytelling is it's the value of that in keeping the stories alive, and somebody that takes a hold of them and captures them forever, you know, in writing is just, you know, where they pass them down and then they get exaggerated. But actually having that firsthand experience and remembering the voices and getting it down there is, you know, like, to have that is just amazing for family and for the people in the story, in that space, and also for other people in other communities who will so connect to the stories because they're familiar. You know, there are towns all over like that, and things that they were talking about, and women drinking and smoking and hanging out on the back porch. That's where all the best stories come from.
Right. Well, and it's funny too, because in spite of that, in spite of hearing those voices my whole life, you know, it took me a really long time and a lot of years to understand them well enough, you know, to be able to write about them. I mean, I think, you know, when I left my hometown, I had a really different view of the the people I was leaving behind and the women and girls I was leaving behind. And, you know, as I worked on the book, and frankly, I mean, honestly, this book would not exist if I hadn't become a parent, to be honest with you. I mean, I know we often think about having children as a great disruption to our creative lives, and it is. but in my case, you know, it really took becoming a mother myself to be able to look at those characters and see them in such a different light. You know, I never realized how young those women were.
Right.
You know?
And you look
I mean, Mary Rose Whitehead is 25 years old in this book. You know, she has a 9-year-old daughter. And those were things that I just, you know, I never realized how young they were. I never realized how hard they worked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think I ever realized how, you know, how complicated and both difficult and filled with joy their lives were. You know, I saw them as my mom and her friends, you know? And I think unfortunately, you know, I mean, I know there are these wonderful writers who are brilliant at 25, but in my case, it just took a whole lot of living, you know, for me to frankly be smart enough and insightful enough to see these women's lives in the kind of nuanced way that they deserved. You know, does that make sense?
Oh, total sense. It would have been a very different book had you had the time or impetus, or, you know, that was front and center for you at 30 or 35. I mean, there's nothing like perspective and having gone through things. Not that there aren't also, like we're saying, many brilliant writers at a very young age, but it's a whole different thing. And I mean, just thinking about the way we thought about the older generations as kids, and now it's like, oh yeah, there's nothing to criticize. Look what they managed. Or I think about conversations I had as a, you know, younger woman and thinking, well, why did you do this way? Why would you have put up with that? And then you sort of get like, oh, that makes sense. So yeah, I think part of your story and having the book come out now, people love hearing that you can always, and firstly, 52 is not that old. It's not like you said you're 92 and you finally wrote a book.
Right.
So you're still a baby-ish, right? So, but
yeah.
It's this idea of, you know, doesn't have to be in 20s, 30, you know, people are constantly, and I know that writers love hearing that. First book out at whatever. There are articles, first books for women over 40 or 50.
Mm-hmm, sure.
You know?
Right.
So it makes total sense to me. And it's Elizabeth Wetmore. Her brand new book, her debut, is just out today. It's Valentine. Visit her site at elizabethwetmore.com. Like her, friend her, love her, follow her, comment on her. It's a read with Jenna Pick, just announced. So everyone's going to be talking about it, of course, as well as on Reading with Robin. And for Mighty Blaze, I feel like I've got this little outro. For Mighty Blaze, it's Reading with Robin. Elizabeth, enjoy it all. Keep in touch. I'm going to follow your journey and see what else happens and how busy you are and how adept you get at all of the social fun.
Do we have time for me to read a tiny bit for the book, or have we used it?
See, that's what happens. I forget. Please read a tiny bit.
Okay, I'm going to read a little bit because the book is, you know, the book is so much better at speaking for itself, you know. So this is the second to last chapter in the book, and I'm just going to read a tiny bit. It doesn't give anything away. This character is Carla, and she is 17 years old with a new baby and a waitress. And she's a character who is very much trying to find a way to make a better life for herself and her infant daughter. So, and the section I'm reading actually is in first person plural. So it's not from her point of view exactly. It's from the sort of the Greek chorus of the other waitresses in the restaurant. So I'll just read a tiny bit.
Thank you.
We lose the men when they try to beat the train and their pickup trucks stall on the tracks, or they get drunk and accidentally shoot themselves, or they get drunk and climb the water tower and fall 10 stories to their deaths. During cutting season, when they stumble in the chute and a bull calf roars and kicks them in the heart. On fishing trips, when they drown in the lake or fall asleep at the wheel on the drive home. Pile up on the interstate, shooting at the Dixie Motel, hydrogen sulfide leak outside Gardendale. Looks like somebody came down with a fatal case of the stupid, Evelyn says when one of the regulars shares the news at happy hour. Those are the usual ways. the ordinary days. But now it is the 1st of September and the Bone Spring shale is coming back into play. Now we will also lose them to crystal and coke and painkillers. We will lose them to slipped drill bits or unsecured stacks of pipeline or fires caused by vapor clouds. And the women, how do we lose them? Usually it's when one of the men kills them. In the spring of 1962, just after natural gas fields were discovered out near Wink, Evelyn likes to tell new hires, one of her waitresses clocked out, rolled up her apron, and carried it with her into the bar to knock back a few with the regulars. The woman's car was still in the parking lot when Evelyn locked up that night, and it sat there for nearly a week before they found her body. At an abandoned oil lease, Evelyn says, because that's where you always find the bodies. Bastard set her on fire, too. You don't get used to knowing something like that. Evelyn is small and wound tight with forearms like Sissel and a beehive the color of ripe plums. The next gas fields will be even bigger than Wink, she tells us at the weekly staff meeting. Start your engines, gals. Get ready to make bank. Keep your eyes peeled for the next serial killer.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you.
I could.
Thank you.
The lyrical, gorgeous, stunning prose.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for reminding me. There's nothing like a conversation, and I'm just so thrilled to get to meet you and excited for your wonderful news. And it's Elizabeth Wetmore, Valentine. You'll be seeing lots and lots of Valentine, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with the Reading with Robin audience. And for Reading with Robin and for Mighty Blaze, it's Reading with Robin, Elizabeth Wetmore. Enjoy your beautiful, special, amazing pub day.
And Robin, thank you so much. I really enjoyed being here. And thanks for sort of guiding me through it all. So thank you. I can't wait to see this. So
my pleasure. My pleasure.